Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from Lagos, the nation's commercial nerve center and our global headquarters. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Let's bring you up to speed with the big happenings in politics and in the polity at midday. Former presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the last election and the current member of the ADC, Mr. Peter Obi, says he will be running for office of president come 2027. Women continue their advocacy for special legislative seats in the legislature as they converge on the gates of the National Assembly. While the country is inundated with political conversation around 2027, well, the women groups and civil society organizations have converged at the entrance of the National Assembly asking lawmakers to pass the special seat bill currently under consideration. The 2025-2026 special seat bill seeks to amend the Constitution to create additional women-only legislative seats to address low female representation in the National Assembly. The bill proposes one extra seat for women in the Senate and House of Representatives for each state and the FCT plus 3 seats in each state House of Assembly. If passed, the proposal will increase the number of seats by 37 seats to the Senate and 37 seats to the House of Representatives and add 108 seats in the state Houses of Assembly. Well, there's a lot of amendment going on from the Electoral Act to the Constitution. But one key issue that is bedeviling the country is security. But let's talk about what has played out recently. Security sources have repelled a terror attack in a shared community in Ifelodun local government area of Kwara State. Local security sources say the attack occurred on Sunday evening. The attack has reportedly engaged combined security forces in a fierce gun battle that lasted about an hour. The coordinated response said is said to have successfully repelled the assailant. There are no confirmed casualty or cases of abduction. That's according to what the security forces and their sources are telling us so far. So that's some great news as far as Kwara State is concerned that has been bedeviled by either abduction or mass manslaughter. Not manslaughter, murder, we should say, because that was literally a massacre in Kayama, in Waro Kayama local government area in Kwara State. Let's also tell you some political happenings in the country. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023, Peter Obi, has assured his supporters of his readiness to contest in the 2027 elections. Mr. Obi gave the assurance in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, during the Obedient Conference, an official declaration for the African Democratic Congress. The former Anambra State governor made a complaint over the amount of borrowing done by the current administration and decried the country's poverty rate.
When I went to Indonesia, I went to the IM, to their so-called election play, and I asked the chairman, what is the qualification to be president? And he told me. And I said, supposing somebody comes and his qualification is forged. Say, what do I need? You'll be in jail. Here, they will tell you it is not it's before election, pre-election matter. Somebody forged the certificate, or he doesn't have certificate. What a country. What a country. And that's where we're going. That's why the American president said, non-disgraced country called Nigeria.
Well, we can also tell you, apart from that, what is playing out, just news in, we can tell you that the federal government has sued Nasir El-Rufai, the former governor of Kaduna State, looking at 3-count charge preferred against them. There's a case filed at the Federal High Court of Nigeria, the Abuja Judicial Division. The charge by the complainant is the federal government. Defendant is Nasir El-Rufai. And that has to do with his interview granted recently with a sister station about the fact that he said he, quote-unquote, wiretapped into the conversation of the NSA. So he's being charged based on Section 12(1) of the Cybercrimes Prohibition Prevention Act Amendment 2024. Count 1, there are count 2, and then there's also count 3 about the issue that has to do with using equipment or communication equipment preferred against him by the federal government. So as soon as we get detail, I can quickly read a few things that you, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, adult male, while appearing as guests on this program on TV in Abuja within the jurisdiction of this court, did admit during the interview that you and your cohort unlawfully intercepted the phone conversation of the National Security Advisor. The second one has to do with unlawfully intercepting the phone conversation. The third one has to do with the use of technical equipment and system which compromise public safety. So those are the 3-count charges preferred against Nasir El-Rufai by the federal government. So it's a developing story. We'll give you the details as soon as we have all of them. Let me bring in my guest. He's a member of the House of Representatives. He joins us virtually from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State Capital. Honorable Clement Jimbo joins us. Honorable Clement, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Geoffrey. Thank you, Channels Television, for this opportunity. Good afternoon, Nigerians.
All right, so Honorable Clement, let's begin with what has been perhaps the latest development as far as the House is concerned. You are a member of the APC, but I want to keep this conversation around national interest. So let's begin with the latest, will I call it circular information that got to distinguished senators and honorable members to convert for a plenary, I think, tomorrow, because INEC has, in line with the extant law, which is the 2022 Electoral Act, because this other act is still under amendment process, has now reeled out a timetable for next election. Presidential election is meant to take place, I think, the February 20th. So in line with the 360 days that's supposed to be given for preparation of elections, they've reeled out that timetable. But there are concerns around religious observances, fasting on both ends, or Christians or Muslim, the Muslim community raising that as a concern to be able to, may affect the fasting period. What do you make of this latest development as far as the timetable is concerned?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me say this. It is enshrined in our constitution that Nigeria is a secular state. I'm going to say that again. Our country, Nigeria, is a secular state. That is not to say we do not have respect for our different religious beliefs. But where a national assignment of a country like ours is subjected to the religious considerations, I, as a member of the Nigerian Parliament, do not believe that it should spark a national conversation. INEC, as directly highlighted, has obeyed the 2022 Electoral Act by giving notice to our next general election, 360 days. They've complied with that. And now, because of what many religious leaders described as conflict of interest, there are considerations for such to be adjusted. The question I will quickly ask, is religion actually a major ingredient in the building of the kind of a nation that we desire? I am a Christian. I recall vividly in the scripture where Jesus Christ healed a particular person that was plagued with infirmity. And the religious leaders of his days rose up and questioned why Jesus Christ should heal that woman. That it fell on a Pentecost day or on a Sabbath day, that on a Sabbath day, such healing should not take place. But what was the response of Jesus Christ? He said, this woman has been plagued with this infirmity for these years. Are you going to still allow her to be plagued with these infirmities because she has been fortunate to be made with a healing on a Sabbath day? Between the Sabbath day and the healing of this woman, which one is more important? The next question we can equally ask our leaders in Nigeria, between observance of our religious beliefs and the organization of an election where credible leaders will be elected to manage the economy of our dear country, which one is truly important?
All right, Honorable, so let me read something by, if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Honorable?
I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Yes, I know that I did read a write-up by Samson Itodo of Yaga Africa, where he's laid some concern that there may be a looming constitutional crisis. As a matter of fact, that elections are not just happenstance; they are complex operational issues that, if not managed carefully, could push the country into some level of crisis. The February 20th date currently fixed for the presidential election coincides with Ramadan and the Lenten season in 2027. Ramadan lasts 30 days, Lent 40 days. If election dates are adjusted to avoid both fasting periods, we will have exactly 30 days before the constitutional deadline. That is dangerously tight for conducting all elections, except we revert to conducting elections in one day. And it could go on and on and on. So if you were to maybe be part of plenary tomorrow, what would you be telling your colleagues, given, because it's even, people can say that it's a failure on the part of the National Assembly to have allowed these electoral amendment protests to have even lingered till this time. But anyway, where we are is a very tight situation. What would you be telling your colleagues?
I would not be saying that it is a failure on the part of the National Assembly, because I am an integral member, which I can speak to the facts, having been through the crucibles of all the laws and all the acts that we've amended ever since I was introduced into the parliament. Yeah, we in the House of Representatives, we have done our very best and within timelines to see to it that we add credibility and we move our electoral processes forward with transparency in mind. Yes, if I'm not sure I'm going to be in tomorrow's plenary, of course, because of the congresses that has been already slated by my political party to start on Wednesday. I'm currently in my state to see to it that we put finishing touches to all what needs to be done. But we have a common platform that we interact. That is the same thing I have already shared. I said, look, Nigeria is a secular state. And there are so many nations of the earth that are equally categorized as a secular state. And they respect what is called national assignment of such countries. We should be able to prioritize our national development to religious beliefs and religious sentiment and religious concentration. Okay, we as a nation, we have been observing these religious practices over the years. Where has it taken our country to? It is time for us to do a mental adjustment, a mental shift, and reorientate our people. What must not be prioritized and what must be prioritized. And if you ask me as a lawmaker, as a patriotic citizen, I would tell you, in the scale of preference, our national assignment, national delegation, national responsibilities, which election in this matter categorizes, is more important than any religious concentration. And that should not be adjusted to accommodate any religious concentration. That does not to say that when the time comes, if you're a Christian, it doesn't stop you from praying. If you're a Muslim, it doesn't stop you from praying. Okay, what time is our election? Election as it has been released by INEC's times table. Presidential and National Assembly election has been fixed for 20th of February 2027. That is a day. That is a day, and it falls on a Saturday. What major national assignment in terms of religious concentration is equally clashing with that very day? I will tell you, to the best of my knowledge, none. Then on Sunday, it is only a microcosm of those that has been saddled with critical election responsibilities will be engaged, maybe at the collation center, the different transmission of results. But the majority of Nigerians, which are the voters, will only be engaged on the Saturday, which between 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning to about 2 o'clock or thereabout. All that is over. And let me also say, on our election days, we restrict movement. So are you telling me that those that want to pray or those that want to observe anything, if the movements are restricted, is it not equally going to affect the practices of our religious concentration? So my position really is, let us prioritize what needs to be prioritized. Let us major on what needs to be majored on. And on this case, our national election should gain priority over any religious consideration.
All right, let's get to that controversial issue. It looks like the House of Representatives has gotten it all passed. Nobody's looking at. In fact, the greater majority of citizens and civil society is insisting that Section 60 or Clause 60 this time, Clause 60 sub 3 of the amended Electoral Act, the joint committee, the conference committee that is harmonizing the bill, should adopt that position of the House of Representatives, because the Senate is getting a lot of flack. First, for introducing a proviso when it's not necessary, but they've defended it. They say it's based on data. INEC has released the data with NCC and MNOs, mobile network organizations, in 2021 with a position paper that 93%, we have those documents, of all their polling units have access to some internet. And then, whether it's 2G, 3G, which the device basically works offline until you are uploading, because to capture you don't need any form of internet. That's why it's 99% offline capability, accreditation, and all of that. This other 7%, they say they use GSM or something of that nature. And they assigned Airtel, Glo, MTN, and all this network to different parts of the country for that particular exercise. In fact, if you look at that position paper, INEC was looking forward to even e-voting someday. And they were saying, don't constrain us to be innovative. Allow us, give us a legal framework. And now that legal framework has come through to elevate a subsidiary delegated legislation to an act of parliament, which is next to a ground norm. But what do you make of the position of the Senate?
Thank you very much. You are putting me on the spot. Well, I'm not a member of the Senate. The Senate has their spokesperson, which I believe has adequately addressed the matter. But if you ask me of what we did in the House of Representatives, we deliberated on this very particular matter, electronic transmission of results being enshrined in the Electoral Act, to further give, to improve transparency and reduce possible manipulation at collation centers, because that is actually where a lot happened. I can tell you for free, because I have stood election, I have equally witnessed what happened in the collation center. It is a case of what I would say, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Yes. But if election results from the polling unit are transmitted electronically to what INEC has already put in place called IREF, it makes it very, very difficult, if not near impossible, for anybody to do any manipulation at the collation center, because what you are collating at the collation center is equally being visible for almost everybody all over the world to equally locked in and see. So when it comes to litigation, if what is collated at the collation center does not tally with what is on the IREF, whoever has gone for litigation to seek for his or her right can have a strong point. So in the House of Reps, we deliberated and we look at all the different angles to this, and we know it is possible, just like you've referenced, that the end use in Nigeria, has come up with a position that 93 or 97, we have 96 to 97 coverage in Nigeria. Of course, if we organize our election and we have that percentage accuracy, we can be adjudged to be free, fair, and credible. Because no matter the level of technology we even deploy, we cannot, but no nation on earth can say that the election it can be adjudged 100% free, fair, and credible. So if we have 95% accuracy in electoral processes, I will tell you that we can beat our chest and say we've done it well. So whatever that is going to improve and make progress in our electioneering processes, the House of Representatives has stamped their feet, and we will stand by what we have passed in the House of Representatives. Of course, the conference committee has been set up, both the House and the Senate. Let's equally wait and see what will come out of there. But I equally like the fact that Nigerians are equally very alive and awake to the deliberations and all what is going on in this matter. So at every point in time, they are equally there to see to it that even what we do, even as lawmakers, is in line with their collective aspiration. And I will align with the masses of the people. Let us make progress. Let every election we do gain legitimacy of the people, gain the support of the people. Let the people that the people actually want to represent them be the one that are elected. And I stand with the people, and I stand with transparency, I stand with progress, and I stand with complete development of Nigeria with credibility. Lays a very good foundation for that.
All right, well, we're going to be looking out for what the joint committees will do. I think the House is led by Adebayo Balogun, who is chairman of the Electoral Act Committee, and then Simon Lalong, the senator, who is in charge of INEC in the Senate. But just stay with me in just a moment. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking about national issue that focuses on the 2027 general election. My guest is Mr. Clement Jimoh. He's a member representing Abaketimekpo Ika Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. Joining us from Uyori, Akwa Ibom State Capital. Honorable, thank you so much. As we begin to wind down, people have said, I've heard people say that your party, you have the president, you have 29 governors. We don't know whether Adama is going to join that list. That will make it 30. You have majority in the Senate. You have literal majority in the House. I see your party that has all of this thing that is boasting that is still afraid of electronic. Maybe you are an exception. I'm just saying, in general, that's the nuances I get. They say your party is afraid of transparent, credible polls. That's why they are kicking against electronic real-time transmission of results. What's your response?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me equally put out there that the progress that we have made in our electioneering processes till date has been midwifed by the All Progressives Congress. Yes, we were not in government in 2015. The All Progressives Congress was not in government in 2015. But we defeated the then PDP that was in government. So we are not afraid of anything. From 2015, we have amended our Electoral Act up to 2022 that has given the level of transparency, the level of credibility, and the level of confidence that we have continually used to conduct our election. So that credit should be given to the All Progressives Congress.
Honorable Jimoh, just for my apologies, you can't give the credit to APC. Has improved on what was done, but credit has to be given to the PDP because the PDP started with a smart card reader. I remember smart card reader. Just
yes, but we have progressed to beavers. We have progressed to beavers.
Fantastic.
Yes, the APC brought in beavers, and even the IRATE is a brainchild of the APC government. So the credit still has to be given that the level of transparency that we have equally witnessed has been midwifed by the All Progressives Congress. We can't take that away from us. So we are progressive-minded. Just like you've said, we are not afraid to build Nigeria when it comes to transparency. And we are doing that intentionally. The president, to the best of my knowledge, is willing to leave the Nigeria better than when he met it. And he has done that intentionally, deliberately, without having to be afraid of taking very difficult decisions. In the wisdom of the National Assembly, in the House of Representatives, if you look at the composition and the demographic, we are basically mainly young people who believe that we can easily navigate and get things done speedily and on time. But it seems that the opposite is in the Senate, our counterpart, which many a time they take time to meticulously look at the length and breadth of every single policy that must become a law before it becomes a law. Like what the Senate position has said, alongside the electronic transmission of result, let us equally have the manual collation, because there is that tendency that something may go wrong in the process of doing it. And if we put it hook, line, and sinker in our laws, that any election result that is not transmitted electronically is null and void. And onto what happened, maybe there is a security incident in a particular region or state where a pylon is brought down, or where a GSM communication mast is brought down, that completely cripple the communication in that state, in that local government area. And if that happens, what is the remedy in our laws? So the Senate said, alongside electronic transmission of results, let us equally have collation, manual collation, physical collation, that indeed, if this one fails, we can leverage on this. And there are so many nations of the earth that are equally using these, should I say, ways of collating their results.
Okay.
Let us move,
Honorable.
and we can still make progress. Let me equally say this before I land, sir. The 2022 Electoral Act has given transparency to our electoral processes. The closest example is Anambra election that has just been conducted, where a different political party won. Are you telling me that APC wouldn't have loved to win that election? But because of the credibility in the Electoral Act, because of the transparency, and because of the willingness of the current government in Nigeria, which is manned by the APC,
all right, Honorable Jimbo,
to see to it that whoever wins
Honorable Jimbo, Honorable Jimbo, no problem. I see the need to defend the legislator, but I'm sorry, but it's grasping at straw. Because we're all stakeholders. I was on the field in Anambra. I covered Anambra election, so I know exactly what played out. What we're saying is that the BVAS was designed with offline capability. I'll say that again. The BVAS was designed with 99% offline capability. So the argument now is, you can argue about real-time transmission. That may be tenable to a large extent because of network issues, but INEC has said 93% is covered. But on the other hand, capturing doesn't need network capability. So there's no premise for a provisor to capture. Whenever, if you go and find network in another state, it's fine. It will transmit, even if it's 24 hours or 10 hours or 5 hours or 2 hours later. So that's what we are arguing as far as this issue is concerned. But we must thank you. And let's see how it plays out.
I agree with that. If you give me 30 seconds, let me also.
We're totally out of time. I'm totally out of time. We invite you again. We're totally out of time. Thank you so much, Honorable. Jimbo Clements in Emesit is representing Abak Etimekpo Ika Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. Always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And may God bless Nigeria.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.